Welcome back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Jake the Rake, Mr. Cronenworth, who was hit in the hand yesterday. Didn't break his hand, but I think he broke part of his finger. It was a similar injury to one that Eric Hosmer had either this year or last year. I think Hosmer hit the 10-day DL, missed a week or two. Jake he's not expected to hit the IL, but he could. If he hit the IL, it would be the 10-day IL. If he doesn't, I would guess that he's probably going to miss around a week or so. Huge loss. I mean, if you're talking about, one of the guys that's been the best bats, not lately necessarily, but throughout the course of the season, Jake has absolutely done that. And also has provided gold glove caliber second base or shortstop wherever he's at. And he's been the shortstop. So I don't know. What do you think about this injury and kind of how do you think they're going to replace him both on the diamond and in the lineup?
Yeah, so just talking about the impact of the injury you brought up, you think he'll probably miss a week, which I probably think so too. I think minimum 3 or 4 days, which is unfortunate considering we still have nine straight days of games against really good baseball teams. So, one of your top 3 players are down. It's really unfortunate. But the way I think they replace them, as much as we all love Ha-seong Kim as a fan base, he's not the solution at the plate. Defensively, he's a stud, amazing gold glove caliber player. But at the plate is where this team is struggling right now. So you can't really put one of the more struggling bats in the lineup right now, considering how bad this team is struggling at the plate. What I think you're going to have to do, I think, they brought it up how they think they might have to put Tatis back at shortstop. I think you do that and you move Myers back to right and Tommy Pham back to left. Now, Tommy Pham hasn't been exactly the best hitter, but what he does do is he consistently gives you some good at bats. So I disagree with what Tingler said the other day about how he likes the way he's been swinging it, but I do agree with this for whatever Padres fans are saying. I do agree that he puts up some consistently good at bats, fouls a lot of balls off, takes a lot of pitches. So that's something we want to see out of somebody that's going to replace somebody like Cronenworth, considering Cronenworth does have really good at bats normally. Now, I did bring up Ha-seong Kim, and I think there will be days where, as long as Jay Cronenworth is going to be out, I do think there will be days we're going to see Ha-seong at short or at second. Right now at second, I'd probably say we're going to see a lot of Frazier just because he's starting to come around these past couple games. You guys know how I feel about Frazier. I'm not the biggest fan just because he doesn't really hit for a lot of power. One guy that's going unnoticed that isn't hitting for a lot of power, unfortunately, is Austin Nola. I saw his OPS is under 500 these last 20, last month or so, something like that. So this lineup is missing a lot of power right now, and losing one of your more powerful bats in Jake Cronenworth, who destroys that off-speed inside low pitch. It's going to be tough. It's tough to replace him. But, of course, there's only 27 games left. It's going to have to be next man up mentality. And I think you're going to have to put your former shortstop back at shortstop. And you're going to have to ride the rest of the way and hope that these guys can finally start coming through with the bat.
So I think Isaac, you completely forgot to bring in a guy that can come in and fill that third base slot, Mr. Will Myers. No, I'm just messing around. But if you guys do remember, Will Myers had the whole situation where he was grounding balls with Andy Green, was not happy about it, and then hit him in the face, and he missed a few games. Not the answer at third base. I'm just screwing around. But what you could do, you could maybe play Manny at short a little bit. I don't think anyone else is going to play third though. I was trying to think of if Manny moved over to short, if you didn't want to move Tatis back, who could play third, and Kim could play third, but you might as well just put Kim at short and keep Manny at third if that's the case. I do not think Frazier is nearly rangy enough to play shortstop. I would probably only expect to see him at second base. Another guy that we've been seeing a lot more of, Jurickson Profar. He can also play second base, and defensively, you want him at second or first. You don't really want him in the outfield. He has played the outfield better as of late, but remember early, middle of the season, he was really struggling to play out there. He's a much better second baseman, much better first baseman. So maybe you see him at second as well mixed in there. I think they're kind of forced into a spot now where they might have to play Tatis at short all the time. I think that probably will help them in terms of they can get their best lineup out. Like you said, Tommy Pham's going to be inserted back in the lineup. Will Myers has been one of the hotter players lately. Chase isn't here, but he would be upset that Marisnik is probably going to get to see some depth outfield time now. But looking at this team, I think that's what's going to happen. So on an everyday basis, it's almost like Jake's going to be out of the lineup, and Tommy Pham's going to be in, and Frazier is going to be in more often. So like that's what I'm expecting. I don't think it affects first base that much because you can put Profar in. Sometimes in for Frazier, sometimes you can put him in for Hosmer, and you're probably going to see more of Profar in general. So more Profar, more Pham. Those are two guys that see a lot of pitches, like you said. We've been talking about it in streams. A lot of you listeners have been talking about it too. Like it seems like a lot of times you can tell if they're gonna hit off a starter because it'll be the third inning and oh look he just finished 3 innings and he has 34 pitches thrown, or it's oh wow this guy just got out of the second and the Padres have forced him to throw 60 pitches and they've scored 3 runs off of him and they have 4 hits and 3 walks. Like that's how it's been pretty much like one or the other. So sometimes too, when they struggle against the starters, they do get hot late in games, but you're looking at like when the offense doesn't score. And I think there's, numerous reasons for this, but you look at like when the offense doesn't score and they don't score and they get into these massive slumps against starters. So it's definitely not going to be a positive losing Jake Cronenworth, but at least you're probably going to see a little bit more Profar, who does see pitches a lot, and Pham, who Jay Stingler's been talking about is swinging the bat real well. But at least I don't believe that, but at least he has been seeing pitches well. Did have that super clutch double the other day, probably like 4 or 5 days ago when he pinch hit. But those are 2 guys I think you're going to be seeing more. So anything else though, Isaac? There's not a ton on this, but it's definitely really important. It's not a major injury, but it's a major time to lose a guy in this moment when you're fighting for a wild card spot, when you're tied for a wild card spot and a guy gets hit in the hand and you have to take him out. So really hoping that Cronenworth is back ASAP, but just gonna have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, it gets even tougher when you realize that up until Thursday we're gonna see Walker Buehler today, Max Scherzer.
Real quick, just got an alert today. Fernando Tatis is playing shortstop. Just got that alert right now. So
love that.
I do think that's the better move.
Yeah, of course, for sure. And that had to happen just so you can get your best lineup out there. Like I said, Ha-seong Kim, I love, he's an amazing fielder. But right now, the way he's been swinging the bat, it's just you can't really afford to have him in the lineup right now. But regarding everything else, the way, like the injury to Jake, it gets even harder to swallow when you realize that up until Thursday, you're going to be facing Walker Buehler today, Max Scherzer tomorrow. I believe you're going to face Anthony Desclafani on either Tuesday or Wednesday and Kevin Gausman on Thursday. That's kind of what it's lining up to be right now. You might also have to face Logan Webb possibly. So, that's even a tougher pill to swallow. We love Jake, but right now it's just got to be next man up. With these guys, right now it's a race. Last year it was a race in a 60-game season. Right now they're in a race to the finish line for that last wildcard spot. And, I've been saying I think all they got to do is get there, and they could be a dangerous team in the playoffs. Of course, you got to win that wild card game against the second best team in the NL and the second best team in baseball record-wise. But I think these guys could do it. They just got to start coming around with the bat, and it's going to be hard considering who they're facing, but they can do it. And they just gotta hold tight until Jake comes back because it's going to be tough without him.
So real quick before I head out, because I didn't really have much else on Cronenworth, but now that Fernando Tatis is back at shortstop, I would like to talk about that a little bit. You've been kind of banging the table for it, Isaac. I know you've wanted to see that. Now, one thing that's been floating around, we were talking about it last night with Jim. If you haven't checked that out, we did a live stream with him, but we were talking about like the energy stuff. I don't know if the energy is necessarily lost when Fernando's in the outfield. I think it's lost because this team hasn't been playing well. I really think that's the case. However, when Fernando is at shortstop, he is absolutely electric. Yes, we've seen him make a lot of errors this year. And guess what? A lot of those errors are going to be because it's a one-hopper to first base. That's just the reality of it. Also, many of those errors happen in the span of 2 weeks after he was injured. So this time around, yes, he's coming off an injury and hasn't played short yet, but he's got to play in the outfield for a couple weeks. So I have a feeling that he is feeling better at shortstop. He has been fielding ground balls lately. I would expect Fernando to come out there and look like the shortstop that he's looked most of the time, which, don't get me wrong, he makes mistakes. But at the end of the day, when he's been healthy outside of a 2-week gap over the last 2 seasons or so, he's been rated as an above average shortstop. And he's a guy that provides highlight reel plays and stuff that really gets like the momentum going. So I like that Fernando's back at short. Hopefully he looks so good that when he's at short that they have to move Cronin back to second and first, and then maybe Profar gets kind of moved to the outfield spot and he's competing with Pham for like a corner outfield spot. I know I brought up that he's not the greatest defensive player, but if he gets hot, getting to play a little bit more, that's worth it. You know, a left fielder that can't field that well, not the end of the world, I feel like. But you can have potentially Cronenworth, Hosmer platooning at first, and then Cronenworth, Frazier platooning at second, where Cronenworth is that everyday player. So that's what I like if this Fernando Tatis at shortstop, if he looks good and it looks normal, and you know, yes, he could get hurt, but they need to flip the switch soon. So I do like it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like most of the errors he makes are on plays that 95% of the rest of the shortstops in baseball can't make. We brought it up. He's one of the most electrifying shortstops in baseball, makes incredible plays. And for anyone who wants to point out his errors, go look at Derek Jeter's defensive run save throughout his career. And I mean, did the Yankees ever want to move him out of shortstop? No. Did he end up becoming, you know, one of the, like, he was one vote away from being a unanimous vote. I don't know who didn't vote for him.
Also, he is like one of the most iconic players in Yankees history, and he's been a title winner. Yeah, so if you want to be like, oh, Fernando at shortstop, like it's going to affect your title chances, it did not affect those teams. So I think that's an example.
100%. And if Hosmer is actually able to pick a couple of those balls, he doesn't have how many errors he has right now. He's an incredible shortstop. Like, obviously, watching baseball, playing baseball, I've never seen a shortstop make plays like that as consistently as he does. That double jump, I've never seen that in my life. That is the one time I've seen it. So this guy makes incredible plays. And even if he does make a couple of errors today, it's just from Russ not playing shortstop in game action for a while. And, I'm excited to see him back there again. I've been wanting him back there. He said he wants to play shortstop the next 10 years. He said next year he wants to be at opening day. He wants to be shortstop at opening day. So that I've been on board with it, and I'm happy it's happening today.
Yeah, so fortunately Jake is down, but at least there's positive news with Fernando going back to short. This team's going to need to really ball out at the end of the season if they're going to make the playoffs. But, got a tough next nine road games tonight. Walker Buehler against Chris Paddock. I posted a poll on Twitter. I don't know if you saw, Isaac. Yeah, people weren't too confident, even if Paddock comes out there and has a quality start. So
I saw that, and
I get it. Like, we've talked about it. Walker is not the dude you want to face. That is with DeGrom hurt. That is the one guy that is like, all right, yes, no, don't want to play that guy.
Good on that, yeah.
So hopefully Fernando provides a spark. Hopefully, there's some momentum. I'm really hoping they win today. I do think they should win Sunday. I really do think that. I think Blake Snell's been absolutely money. And we talked about before, the dude has not got the run support that he's deserved. And he should be winning a lot more when he's on the bump. So I do think Sunday's a good game. I hope that they pull tonight, but this Giants series, this Cardinals series, going to need some really good play. Hopefully this Cronenworth is back for that Cardinals series. I think that'd be huge. So Fernando, got to be electric. This team's got to get going, got to get hot, but that's where we're at on these guys. So I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you all for listening. I'm probably going to miss the next couple episodes, just pretty busy. So Isaac and Chase will probably just be holding it down for a few days, but I'll be back in like mid next week. So that's going to do it for today, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.